Hey, everybody. Welcome to episode 13 of the Growth Ethic podcast. Um, Shane is not here this week. He's on family vacation for the 4th. And hope everybody else had a wonderful 4th weekend. Um, I myself went to a barbecue that my sister and brother-in-law was hosting and had a few margaritas, had so much food, feeling and looking super swollen today. So excited to get through this session. Got a lot of fun things, and then going for a long run to shed off all those calories from yesterday. But hope everyone had a happy and safe July 4th yesterday. Um, we're gonna do something a little bit different, obviously without Shane here. We figured let's keep going with the SEO session from the previous episode where we set up a Google Cloud account to help enable a lot of SEO tactical things moving forward. So we're going to pick things up from where we left off. And again, I'll share my screen, walk you through the next steps that I think would be really helpful for SEOs out there, would be helpful for business owners that might have an SEO on contract. So if you do want to get up to speed, head over to episode 12. It's the last roughly 30 minutes of that episode where we dig into a Google Cloud account, how to set that up, get your Gemini API key. So definitely do that. Without further ado, let's jump right in. Um, had a lot of fun with this one. I was thinking about what website to perform this analysis on, and there's a site that I frequent a lot. There's a brand that keeps popping up in my searches, given my current training block as a runner. And so I selected the domain runner.com. They provide, you know, pace charts. They provide, really a wealth of information for training for various races, um, injury prevention information. And then they also have an app, which is wonderful. I don't currently use the app, but the folks that I'm running the marathon with they're certainly using that to help guide them through their training. So um, yeah, we'll use runner.com as an example, but of course, if you own a business or you work on a business and you'd love to see this analysis done for your website, drop us a comment. Happy to perform that um, for any domain. So this is the website we'll be performing a bit of a semantic analysis of today. But before we do, let's go step by step on how to get to that point. So, first thing first, this is what we set up last week. If you head over to console.cloud.google.com, you'll first want to select the project that we created. And what we're trying to do right now is retrieve our Gemini key. So just click on that hamburger menu, head over to API and services, click on enabled APIs and services, hit credentials. This is what we set up last episode. And if you hit show key, you'll be shown your Gemini key. I am not going to click that because it's a private key for myself. But copy that. And then the next step is to head over to Screaming Frog. Again, this is something that we walked through in the previous episode, but we'll walk through the steps again while we're here. What you will do is first go to configuration, head down to API access under AI, hit Gemini. And now I'm just realizing that you'll see my API key, but that's all good. I'll just create another one after this session. But this is where you'll drop your API key, hit paid under this drop down. Then you'll go to prompt configuration. Don't hit connect yet. We want to do one more thing. Hit prompt configuration, hit add from library, and you'll have a few options here. Really depends on the use case of what you're trying to do. For us today, the overall goal is to get the semantic map of runna.com and identify if there are pages that are way too similar that we might want to combine. Um, and so the best prompt configuration for that is the second one here. Extract semantic embeddings from a page, and we're going to leverage the Gemini API to do so. You might be a little confused between this option and the first one. Um, the best way to describe the difference here is that the first one will extract embeddings of the entire page's content. So it'll look at stuff like the main navigation of a page, the footer, and those are things that aren't really unique to the content of that page. So this option is, I think, best for really broad analysis of an overall website, whereas what we're trying to do is really understand the intent and the semantic topics of an actual page and the contents of that page. And so when we're trying to do something very specific like that, um, I would encourage you to use this option. So we'll select that, hit insert. It'll pre-populate things. Don't worry about this error sign here. We're going to address that in the next step. Head back to account information, hit connect, and then you'll see this green bar. Now the next step is to go to the go to the spider drop down, hit extraction, and you'll want to check the store rendered HTML box. This is going to remediate that error message that you saw before. This basically tells the crawler to crawl the entire rendered HTML of every single web page. So definitely hit that. Then we're going to go under the content section, go to the embeddings, enable embedding functionality, and it should really pre-select the prompt configuration that we selected before. For the purposes of today's exercise, we want to analyze semantic similarity between all of the pages, so we'll click that. And then you're going to see this threshold. And again, previous episode, we kind of walked through this. Screaming Frog also has a wonderful knowledge base to really learn about what all of this really means. So semantic similarity threshold, it basically, we're able to select a numerical value um, to really set what similarity is between a page. So let's say it's at 0.95. If this threshold number is 0.95 or above, then we will determine that two pages are semantically similar. If it's beneath 0.95, that means it's not similar. So as you can imagine, if you drop this number down to 0.65, we're providing a much more lenient semantic similarity score. So in theory, it would capture potentially even more pages that are similar. Now, is there a general rule of thumb here? No, I think it really depends on the website. So you might have to kind of throttle this threshold number case by case. But I think to begin, it's always best to set a pretty strict threshold so that you're really capturing pages that are really, really closely similar in their semantics. So I'm going to keep 0.95 here. And then you hit OK, enter your domain, runner.com in the case for us, and then you hit start. Now, I've already ran a crawl for this. It takes a little bit of time. So let the crawl run. Once it finishes, the next step would be to run a crawl analysis. So I'll show you what that looks like. Once it's complete, you would hit this button here. Double check your configuration. So go to configure. the one thing that you want to make sure is selected is the content checkbox here. So make sure that's selected. Go back to crawl analysis, and the start button will be clickable once a crawl is complete. So hit that, it'll run again. Once that's done, the crawl is over and you're ready to analyze. So let me get the crawl that I ran previously up and running so that we can look at data together and start analyzing. This is kind of the fun part, right? So this is what a finished crawl would look like. You see a bunch of these URLs, you'll see a lot of data points. No need for me to walk you through every bit and piece of Screaming Frog. Let's just focus on what we want to accomplish today. And so you'll go to this caret dropdown, click on content, go to the top left here, and select the semantically similar dropdown. Now, really important here is that when you want to look at one page and all of the other pages that are semantically similar to this page, it's really hard to really view that on a site-wide basis directly within Screaming Frog. So you can do it on a page-by-page basis by clicking on URLs and then using this kind of URL expanded view to identify all of those semantically similar pages. I think as an SEO, what you really want is a way to see this at scale for the entire website. So the best thing to do here at this point is go to the bulk export option, go down to content, and bulk export all of the semantically similar URLs. Depending on the site size, it might take a lot of time. I think for Runner, it took me about an hour and a half for the data to actually get exported into a CSV file. So just a heads up there that you might need to let it run, and you can switch your focus and multitask on to something else. So do that, export it as a CSV. If you like working in an Excel file, feel free. I am just now really used to using Google Sheets, and I exported it into a Google Sheet. So this is what that export would look like. This is actually what that export would look like. It's still not really digestible, in my opinion. And so what I did was create a pivot table here. So I selected everything, created a pivot, added a row for the initial address, and then I added another row for the other URLs that are semantically similar to the initial address. So what you'll find here, let me make this a little bit more viewer friendly. What you'll find here is an easy way to now look at individual pages and see which pages are semantically similar to that one page. So this is a really powerful way of visualizing pages that are potentially cannibalizing one another. And what I mean by cannibalization is, two or more pages that are really competing with one another for potential ranking visibility on Google search or any other real search ecosystem. So really powerful way and relatively automated way to get to a place where we can start analyzing each and every page for a potential action. So let's kind of walk through some of these pages, right? We have a bunch of pace charts. Let's look at the marathon pace chart. I'm kind of curious what other semantically similar pages there are. We've got another pace chart for a 10-mile race. We have a pace chart for a half marathon race. And so the configurations that we had set up in Screaming Frog has identified these three pages as semantically similar. Now, we have to think critically about this, right? We can't always just rely on tools to drive the next step action for us to take. We have to look at these pages and understand that, yes, though these pages might be very semantically similar, they serve a very different purpose, right? One is for a marathon, the other's for a 10-mile race, and the other's for a half marathon race. So there's really no need for us to combine these pages because they serve a very unique intent for a potential reader and a searcher looking for a pace chart specific to the race that they presumably are going to run. Now, as an SEO, there are probably other tactics that we can think about. One thing that comes into mind is an interlinking strategy here, given that we as a community know that interlinking between semantically similar pages is a very good practice to implement. I would start strategizing a way to connect these pace charts to one another, right? Thinking if someone is looking for a pace chart for a half marathon, they might be curious for a pace chart for a marathon, right? That might be something that they're looking to run in the future. And so connecting these pace charts in a way that's user friendly, maybe a module at the bottom that, you know, shows that, hey, we have a pace chart for a marathon if you're interested. We have one for a 10-mile race if you're interested. Implementing an internal link strategy, I think, would be an interesting project to pursue for the pace chart section of the Rana website. So pretty cool thing that we can identify just from this kind of workflow that we've implemented. Um, let's try to find a semantically similar page that actually requires two pieces of content to be folded together um, that might actually be like duplicate pages. It might be serving the same intent. I think that's where it gets really, really interesting because that was kind of our primary goal of this exercise. It's to really remove unnecessary content or content that serves the same purpose and ultimately doesn't require multiple pages to kind of say the same thing and have the same messaging on. Um, just for the purpose of time, I kind of went through this list and I identified a couple of instances of duplicate content. One of them being this um, Rome marathon race that Runna was, kind of broadcasting to their readership and the folks coming to their website. So I clicked on the Run Rome Marathon. I expanded that out. And I saw that there were two URLs that were semantically similar to that page. I opened up all three of them and I noticed that two of the pages were very, very similar. So we've got the Run Rome the Marathon page, and I scanned through it. It talked about what the marathon, just details about the marathon, when it was going to be held, where it is, and just some additional information about it, which is great. I think this page is great about, um, all the necessary information that you need about this specific event. And then I went to the other page that was semantically similar to this page, has a slightly different URL. It doesn't have the word the in it, Run Rome Marathon. Um, seem to talk about the same thing. 2025 Rome Marathon had similar content, right? It had the start, the day of the event, had the elevation profile similar to the other page. It had some additional pieces like the website link to the actual marathon page. I guess roughly the number of participants in this event, had pretty similar information here. And ultimately, I noticed that these two pages were pretty much exactly the same. Slight variations in the content. I think this page had a little bit more depth in terms of the information here on the right side specifically. The one prior to didn't have, the estimated number of participants. It didn't have the link to the actual marathon page, which I think is an important link to have. So this page probably is the one that Runna or the marketing team at runna.com wanted as the unique Run Rome marathon page. They might have created this in the beginning, was fiddling around with it. Um, oh, in fact, they do have the website link, but still, this one has a little bit more depth. So who knows? I think internally they probably forgot that this page existed. Um, And the next step that I took was just to make sure that both of these pages were being indexed in Google. So a quick trick here is when you want to check if a page is indexed in Google, click copy the URL, head over to a fresh Google sheet, type site colon, put in that URL, and just double check that that URL is the one that pops up. This one seems to be the one. So this confirms that it is being indexed. I want to do a quick check for the other URL, same thing, site colon, and it seems like this one's indexed as well. So this is a bit of a problem, right? We have two pages that are pretty much identical. They're both indexed. And so if someone's searching for information around this marathon, maybe they're trying to search for, information about this marathon and Runna's kind of POV on it. And they're searching in their search bar for something like Run Rome Marathon, Runner training programs. That could be a problem because we have two pages potentially vying for that ranking position. Um, so for the Runner team here, the next step would be to either redirect one of these pages to the other or set a canonical tag from one page pointing to the other. So I hope you get the sense that this workflow has tremendous impact on the types of challengeable issues that can surface and a lot of actions that we can take. So I found this really useful. Again, I think if there's a domain that you're working on, a business that you own, and would like to see this type of analysis, drop us a comment. I would love to run this analysis for other websites out there. I've been doing it for my own clients, and I'm still learning about additional takeaways and actionable insights that can come out of this workflow. Just as a bit of a teaser, I think um, the next thing that I want to look at using this workflow is identifying irrelevant content, right? What we were looking at today were pieces of content that were really similar to one another that we can either consolidate, maybe remove a page. Um, but looking at irrelevant content, I think, is going to be an interesting thing for us to look at in a future session. That also weighs down the potential SEO performance of a website. So keep that one back of your minds. That'll absolutely be something that we look forward to. Um, and it just came to my mind as well that I think there's even more data points that we can layer into a spreadsheet like this. I think there's performance data that we can add onto to help us kind of prioritize which pages that we want to analyze. But yeah, the options, I wouldn't say are limitless, but there are just a tremendous amount of options and takeaways that we can take from this workflow. So hopefully this was somewhat helpful. And again, if there's a domain that you'd like for me to analyze, let's make this interactive. I would love to help your business out along the way. And yeah, it'd be interesting to learn about other industries and businesses out there. So yeah, that's it for today. Short and sweet. We'll probably be getting back to our more regular scheduled programming with Shane back from vacation in a couple of weeks. Well, he's back next week, but our next episode being filmed in a couple of weeks. But yeah, if any questions, please reach out. Yeah, and I'll take a moment here if you guys can like, subscribe. Definitely reach out with any comments, things that you'd like to see, not only from an SEO perspective, but from us running our own businesses. We'd love to really provide as much value as possible. Alrighty, thanks for tuning in. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.